Master Skywalker. There are too many.
Swear words.
What are we going to do?
Terrific. This show contains some adult language and may not be suitable for younglings.
Hello there.
He's no good to me dead.
We're fine. We're all fine here now. How are you?
I think you'll fill in nicely.
This is where the fun begins.
Hello, and thank you for joining us for news, reviews, and interviews from your favorite galaxy far, far away. My name is Pat, but don't call me Padawan, Collins.
And it's Andy Hanlon here, the mayor of Alderaan.
And I'm Ryan, and I didn't actually Sith today. Sherman has.
He's bunged up, folks. He's bunged up. So what's on the council docket today, guys?
Well, today is a very, very, very special day. We have an interview. We have an interview that we'll get to. We have a collaborator, a contributor to the Star Wars universe. We were fortunate enough to be joined by Marc Thompson. If you've not heard of Marc Thompson, you probably haven't listened to a Star Wars audiobook before. He's done many, many of them. Absolutely amazing. So we'll get to that interview in just a little bit here. But first, we have a couple little news items here. Well, this one isn't so much news as it is a theory that I just thought was interesting. Now, we were talking about it. Should it be an Obi-Watch thing? But it's more of a theory as opposed to it actually being something that's going to be in the Obi-Wan thing. But something to consider anyways for you, gentlemen, as well as our listeners out there as well. Did Obi-Wan put Luke on Tatooine as bait? It offers like a whole...
For himself?
For Darth Vader. No,
Do not besmirch the name of my Obi-Wan.
he was gonna. Yeah,
I want to keep him close.
Yeah, he was master bait.
It could be.
But
It could be. That would make sense. That would help kind of explain why he's there.
But it never worked.
It didn't. He never showed up. So
you got close. Got close with.
I mean, it would actually make a lot of sense if in the Obi-Wan series, Vader ended up back on Tatooine, and that's where the showdown happened. However, it won't happen because we find out in Empire Strikes Back, like, that Vader is Luke's father. Like, Vader doesn't find that out till later, right?
Yeah.
So, unless he thinks he finds out somehow that Obi-Wan is hiding something on Tatooine, but never finds out what it is, but still ends up on Tatooine, that could be possible.
Yeah, it's a very interesting article. We won't go into it too much. I'll put the link to the article in the show notes as well, but it's just something to consider and something to maybe think of and keep an eye out for. Look for clues in any kind of future information for the upcoming Kenobi series, just to see if, maybe he did try and dangle that Luke-shaped carrot right in front of the Empire, and maybe just failed at that too, like he did it. Balancing the Force and everything, but yes, it could be interesting.
one thing I want to talk about is, because you guys know my love for Luke Skywalker, and I'm also a big stan for Sebastian Stan. And he actually recently was doing some press for the Falcon Winter Soldier, and he was asked about him possibly playing a young Mark. Well, not a young Mark Hamill, but a young Luke Skywalker. Although that would be awkward.
The movie's about Mark Hamill being cast as Luke Skywalker.
Just wait. That will be a future Oscar movie, The Making of Star Wars. I guarantee you. Hollywood loves their movies about making movies.
Yeah, Man on the Moon style, like with Jim Carrey and
yeah. And one of the big Oscar contenders this year is Mank, which is all about the making of Citizen Kane. Anyways, but what Sebastian Stan said was basically he's not playing a young Luke Skywalker, but he didn't say totally no. He just said if Mark Hamill gave him the call and gave him the go-ahead, he would totally do it. So
that just makes me want it so much more. You'd be like, you're so respectful.
Well, even seeing that interview, Even seeing the interview, he had the longish hair. I'm like, oh my god, he looks so much like him.
I honestly have more. I think it's like 75% happening that he'll do it.
I think it's almost there. I think this. Yeah.
I think it's been too much out there. He's part of the Disney family already. I just think it's too perfect. And now that he said it out there, like Mark Hamill, give me his blessing. Mark Hamill's going to see that.
Mm-hmm. That's the move. Well, Mark Hamill has commented on one of those deepfake videos before, saying like, "Great job, my son," or something, or he referred to him as his son, something along those lines. So, like, Mark Hamill is possibly like the least Hollywood seeming person out there. Like, you get no kind of sense of animosity, being like, "That's my character." Like, stay away.
Well, and he also recognizes like he's getting older, right? Like he can't do the character for much longer, and at least it's someone who looks like him, so it's still keeping it alive. It's not like
the legacy is continuing, and it's.
I think that's it with Mark Hamill. Like that's the way he keeps his legacy alive with Luke Skywalker for a whole new generation of people long after he's gone, is by being able to select. Because in a sense, what Stan has set up is the ability for Mark Hamill to select his successor.
Yeah, and it's not really up to Mark, but it would be the symbolism of it. It would just be that like symbolic.
I know it's not up to Mark, but like he was so vocal about Last Jedi and what like everything, and then you know that he sent that thing about when like the character came back and he was a part of for Mandalorian. Like I feel like right now, yes, he doesn't have the ultimate decision, but I feel like his public stamp of approval, Disney's like, well, fuck. Now we have to do it.
Yeah.
Well, because they lost a lot of goodwill of like real Star Wars fans, right? From the sequel trilogy. And then with The Mandalorian and with Luke Skywalker, you know, I think it really brought people back. And myself included, like, you know, the biggest stain on the sequel trilogy is what they did to Luke, right? So, and that's another way that they can, you know, have his legacy live on is by redeeming that character with his own series.
Yeah, and just exploring, you know, how he became this bitter old guy on Ahch-To. You know, if they can justify that, then sure. But we, the fans, didn't really get any kind of major justification outside of him just being like, it didn't work. We're all doomed to be in a cycle. It's like, well, why, Luke? Tell us why, and maybe this series will do that for us.
Is it Ahch-To or Ahch-To?
What'd I say, Ahch-To?
You said Ahch-To.
I thought it was Ahch-To.
I think it's Ahch-To.
Shoot, we should have asked Marc Thompson. He was the one who narrated the dang audiobook for it. So, anyways,
Google it.
Speaking of Mark,
correction next week for one of us. Who will it be?
Not me. Yeah, probably me. But
is it Alderaan or Alderaan? I always like the way Tarkin says it. He's like Alderaan.
Yeah, there's no real continuity with a lot of the pronunciation of things like Han and Han. Although they did kind of explain that in Han Solo or in Solo. It's like, no, it's Han. All right, Han. But anyways, here is our interview with narrator extraordinaire Marc Thompson. Now, we are fortunate enough to have a very special guest joining us today. He's a voice actor extraordinaire who's appeared on dozens of cartoons, including Daria, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Pokemon, Mobile Suit Gundam, Transformers, X-Men, and dozens more. Now, what does he have to do with Star Wars? Well, if you've listened to any 2 Star Wars audiobooks, chances are that Marc has narrated at least one of them. He has around 49 Star Wars titles, and counting, and what looks like a dozen or so, perhaps more, audiobooks on top of those Star Wars ones. And he may be the only person who can speak Shriwook better than me. Please welcome the amazingly talented Marc Thompson. Marc, how are you today?
Hey, I'm doing great. That's a high bar though you're setting up. I don't know if I can speak Shriwook.
Well, you at least got the sound effects down pat, because I'm not ordering a coffee in Shriwook or anything. However, I can get the grumbles down pat there. So, but we'll save that for later. But again, thank you so much for joining us today. We're just grateful to have you on.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's an honor to come on and talk about Star Wars.
Yeah. So hey, Mark, it's Andy. I don't think I introduced myself before we got going. I'm Andy. It's nice to meet you.
You too.
We're just curious, like, so Star Wars. I mean, we're all big Star Wars fans. This is a Star Wars podcast. How did you get involved in the narration game with Star Wars? Like, what was the process like? How did that all come about?
Yeah, so I had been doing animation for quite a while, and my agent called and said, well, have you ever done an audiobook? And I was kind of like, no, not really. And I was kind of trying to talk her out of it, because I wasn't, I hate to admit this, but I wasn't much of a reader. Like, I didn't like read a lot growing up or whatever, and it just seemed like a lot of work to me.
Right?
So I was kind of trying to like not show a lot of interest, but then she was like, well, what about like would you be interested in doing a Star Wars audiobook? And I was like, whoa, yeah, hold on, yes, you know. So then I just really was like, oh my goodness, this is awesome. And they gave me like 3 pages of it, and they said, you know, prepare this, and you're gonna come in and audition. And so I like kind of just read it like crazy, and I kind of got some of the character voices together, and I like prayed. I was like, God, let me get this, you know. And so then I walked in, and I did it, and I think you could ask Kevin Thompson. He's the director of pretty much all of the Star Wars books, and I think he would probably say like I got it because I could emulate a lot of those voices, and I think my animation and mimic background kind of helped with that. But then having to learn how to, you know, narrate the entire book and make it make sense was something I had to learn on the fly and on the job. So there was a bit of a learning curve, but it's now one of my favorite things. Like I actually really love reading the book and narrating the whole thing now. But initially it was definitely really, really challenging and took a lot to get acclimated to.
They are. I've done a couple auditions on ACX before.
Oh yeah,
and
okay.
Just the auditions alone, it's like 3 to 5 minutes of straight reading.
Right.
And I find myself just hustling up. Like, I read so fast when I'm trying to narrate, when I'm doing ACX auditions. I've never landed one myself, but probably because I end up just reading so fast, my mind is just fixated on getting to the bottom of that page. So it is a huge patience game.
Yeah.
And the pacing and making it make sense, which you do so amazingly. So it's
thank you.
It's definitely a skill there for sure.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because like one of my really good friends, Jay, who's an amazing narrator and voice actor and actor and director, but we were talking about that one time, and I was talking about how challenging that is, and he gave me some advice. He said what you just said is just slow down, like really just, you know, take your time, because chances are if you're stumbling over the words and you feel like it's going too fast, it's not going to make sense to the listener. So like, don't be afraid to like really, you know, like obviously not too slow, but like, you know, like really, you know, kind of take it in and kind of, you know, and that just helps sometimes when I start stumbling or start, you know, tripping over my words, is just to take a deep breath and just kind of like slow it down a little bit. It helps me to kind of figure out where I'm going and kind of read ahead on the page, so I know like while I'm saying this, I'm reading the next one and knowing where it's supposed to go. So
yeah. Now the beard, is that Obi-Wan Kenobi, or is that a result of COVID?
No, it's a little of both, I guess. It's mainly Obi-Wan Kenobi though. I did a play in I think it was 2016 where I had to shave my head, and I was bald for that, and then I like
Not by choice though.
Oh, okay. So when the play was over, I like my beard came in faster than my head, and I was like, maybe it made it look better if I had some hair down here. But then when I grew it in, I was like, oh, I can really grow this now. And then I started cosplaying as Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I'm a part of the Rebel Legion Star Wars group. So,
that's awesome.
So I do like a Jedi with the beard, and then it's just I just gotten used to it now, and it's just so much easier to maintain. I just have to shave the neck and the back. So
very cool. I love it.
Yeah, I've seen some of that cosplay, but it's
cool.
You nail it as Obi-Wan every time.
All right.
That's awesome.
So you know you've had a chance to be part of like the Legends era. And that's like has a really soft spot in a lot of fans' hearts. The fans really love it.
Oh yeah.
Do you have any like favorite got to be a part of, or
oh yeah,
just in general?
So I was really lucky because I got to do 2 big kind of 9-book story arcs when I was first starting out.
Yep.
And it was kind of like basically like what happened to like Luke and Mara's kids and like and Han and Leia's kids, and like it was these epic stories. And so I really like the, I think it's called Legacy of the Force and Fate of the Jedi were kind of the name of the arcs. So those all kind of blend together for me. But I really liked Fate of the Jedi. Like I really liked kind of that arc and some of the things that were going on in there. And there's I should have looked this up to remember, but there was this group of aliens that were kind of
Yuuzhan Vong.
Well, there's that. I didn't get to do the Yuuzhan Vong. Yeah, I that was before me.
Okay.
But there was this group of aliens that were Force users, but they were kind of like what the Bendu is on Rebels. It was this group of aliens that didn't necessarily subscribe to the idea of the light and the dark, but kind of like were trying to examine both sides or kind of be this gray in the middle thing. And Luke went to them to try to learn some stuff about the Force that he wasn't learning yet. And so that was, and they like would like, they had like this tongue, and they would like, the way they communicated was like kind of like using their tongue to like taste things or whatever. And it was like really, it was very like, it was really deep sci-fi, like weird stuff. And I loved it.
That's
really
when Luke and Ben go on their mission, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And they're like, there's like dead people in the water, and like this weird
becomes kind of
vision
this
quest.
eerie kind of. It's almost like the Harry Potter when him and Dumbledore go to that. Fortress there, whatever
I don't
part
know the
that
name
one
of it
was.
either. Yeah,
but that was kind of great, and that's how I first got to know you, and like how I just started to appreciate what you did. You essentially helped me train my dog, because I used to take nice long walks with my puppy, and I figured out how to download from the library's audiobook profiles to get the entire. And I started with it was the Fate of the Jedi, the whole Jason Solo arc.
Yes,
and his fall, or no. It's not even really a fall. It's like he makes becoming a Sith make sense,
right?
In a weird way. He does it from like a heartfelt, very like empathetic point. You get why he does it, and he's got his own secrets as to why he can't necessarily reveal why he's doing what he's doing. Yeah. But then he just gets kind of sucked into it, and it's like a compelling, like it's like, man, I don't blame you, man. You're not gonna do anything, but yeah, and just the way you pulled everyone through that story arc itself, like those 18 books of those 2 storylines were just absolutely phenomenal, and were really how I got hooked on you as how I became a fan of yours, for sure.
Oh wow, that's cool.
So I highly recommend, although they're not canon, they should be.
Yeah, they're great stories though. They're really fun.
They are fantastic. They still hold up these days, and I'm sure that that old Mr. Filoni and Favreau will be borrowing heavily in the years to come from some of those story arcs, hopefully. But so getting back to like the recording process itself there, can you walk us through what that's like? Like, so your setup, first of all, like, I assume you used to go into a studio. Do you do that now? Do you?
Like now we're back. The last book I did, we got to go back in the studio.
Cool.
Although it is weird because it used to be very social and everybody has lunch together or whatever, and now it was like I go in one door, the engineer comes in another door. There's the glass door behind us, and then we're kind of eating lunch in separate rooms and masked up and all that, So it's they definitely have their protocols in place, but one of the Thrawn books we recorded here on this mic.
Nice.
So that was challenging and interesting. And I think Dr. Afro we did here as well.
Okay.
So so it's like, trying to keep the dogs quiet and the kids quiet. So.
I get
but
that.
and so so you mentioned Kevin, no relation. That's one thing I always wanted to ask you. No relation there whatsoever.
Although we have a really cool connection because we actually met years before I auditioned for Star Wars. I was doing voiceovers on, you mentioned in the intro, Daria, which was a cartoon that was on MTV years and years and years ago.
Great cartoon.
And he was producing and directing a cartoon about spies, and we were both recording at Sync Sound, at the same time, and we happened to just have a lunch break at the same time. We were talking, and the character I played on Daria is called Kevin Thompson.
There you go.
And I think he has a brother named Marc Thompson but it's like, it's just this weird, like, what? So.
yeah. These kind of how fate intertwines us all. Yeah. Oh, that's funny. That's great.
So that's really cool.
Now, so does Kevin like fully direct you with these sessions? So he says like, okay, this scene coming up here, this is the tone, this is the ambiance, give me this mood, and go.
When needed, yes. It's not like every scene we're doing that. It's not like every, but there's definitely moments where, if he can tell that I'm not quite getting the sense of a beat like that, he'll kind of like help, paint the picture and say like, this is why this is important, and this is what we have to focus on in this particular scene, or this is what will make this scene interesting, is if we focus on this aspect, or like, sometimes he'll say, read this scene as if it's more in this character's POV, like, cause like the description of what the action's going on is more from their perspective versus, this other perspective. So, and those things really, really help me. And so, but we've done so many of these together now that we kind of have a bit of a shorthand, and he can kind of, kind of nudge me with simple directions and things like that.
Right. Oh,
and he'll, what I'm amazed with what he does is that, like he'll know like, okay, I'm going to use this particular music cue at the end of this paragraph because of the way this is, so, or sometimes he'll say like, give me a slight pause between this word and that word, because I'm going to put the sound effect right there. Or, so like there's like, he's just, he can kind of hear it in his mind before he's mixing it, before he's like layering in all the stuff. So he kind of knows like the perfect way to, like the perfect pauses and the perfect, tone for these particular beats. Cause he know, like he's got some of that library just kind of in his brain as well, So
For sure. Well, speaking of that library, now my biggest, like, it's one thing to do Han as amazingly as you do Leia, do like Luke, do like separate all the big characters, but a lot of the side and smaller characters, how do you differentiate those when you're reading it off the text? Do you have like a legend somehow, like a different highlighter colors for different characters, or how do you keep them straight?
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Like when I first started, I would do that. Like I would try to highlight them. But then what started happening is like when we get to the recording booth, they'd say, "Oh, here's a new version of the script." Like we just had a bunch of editor updates, and I was like, "But my highlights, they're all." So I was like, "I'm not doing that again. Like forget that." And so now what I do is I record like little samples on my phone, and then when it comes to a character's voice, I'll like play a reference just to kind of get the voice in my head, and then I'll jump forward from there. And like. So what usually happens is the first day or two recording can be a little bit slow for me because I'm still getting to know the characters and okay, who does he sound like again? And right, what is that voice? But then like around like day 3 or 4, I'm like I've gotten to know them well enough that I can start to ping pong like back and forth just seamlessly. And but there's still some characters I have to keep referring back to because it's like they didn't show up for like 10 chapters and everything.
Certainly, or they're so obscure and they're only in this text, and there's no other frame of reference aside from, like you say, just what you come up with in your phone there. That's awesome. That's cool.
Does the process...
There any characters... Oh, go
ahead, Ryan. No, go ahead.
I was just... did I introduce myself?
We didn't introduce ourselves.
I think so. Yeah, sorry.
I'm Ryan.
I see George Lucas's beard.
I'm not George Lucas's beard. I put that in once and it's just stuck around.
I like it.
I was going to ask, is there any characters that you obviously you can do them quite well, but it takes you a bit to get into them, where you're kind of like, that's a tough one. If I don't have to do it, I don't want to. But
yeah, I mean... some of the alien ones can be a little tricky. What we're doing for Jixtus right now is a character in the Thrawn books, and he has this low, creaky, and it's like hard to kind of like get into that and like do the inflections thing. And so sometimes it's hard for me to get in a rhythm for him. And then there's some characters that are just like anytime I have to do a Chad Rafan, they're like this like high little bat creature, and like they're like super high, squeaky, and it like after a few, several hours of recording, it's hard to keep the pitch of that quite correct. So
do you find that sometimes they come out sounding like too much alike, and you have to kind of go back and
there's definitely times I try to solve a lot of those problems when I'm getting ready before I get in the booth. But then, like, sometimes the voice I pick is not something that Kevin thinks is going to work, or we decide, you know what, let's change this up, and then that can be kind of challenging because then I'm on the fly trying to come up with voices, and then, oh no, the one we came up with on the fly sounds too similar to this character that comes up in the next chapter, and so that's definitely a challenge, and I try as hard as I can to make them distinct, but sometimes you're going to get some that are maybe, first cousins of each other or something. So.
Yeah. Well, one of the biggest examples of that I can think of is, again, that Fate of the Jedi arc series. Niathal, it's a female Mon Calamari. But just like how different you can make her sound versus Akbar. They're both Mon Calamari, but
I thought you were going to say they're the same and they sound alike.
No, not at all. Like, just how subtle the differences are.
Oh, cool.
But you maintain that, and that's the trick, I'd imagine, is just like maintaining throughout X hundred of pages of copy, just to be like, I would just that's why I'm not doing what you're doing. So. But
it's fun.
So how long typically does a recording take for you get the text to it's available for purchase?
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, so I mean, it varies. I'll say on average, I'll get the script maybe 2 to 3 weeks before we have to record. So I've got to read the book in that time and then make all my notes and figure out all my voices and stuff like that. And then we go to the booth, and that typically will take me 4 to 5 days, sometimes 6 days of like 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. at night. They let you out for food and bathroom, but most of the time you're just, read.
Wow.
And that's pretty challenging. Like that's just pretty like mentally and physically it can be exhausting. It's not like hard manual labor, but it's like of all the things I'm asked to do as a voiceover actor, it's definitely the most challenging thing is the audiobook. So, but then I think after it's recorded, the editors have to, I think they take maybe, you'd have to ask Kevin to get a good answer. I'm assuming it's like maybe 3 to 4 weeks of them editing, sending it to quality control sending it back, then putting in all the music and sound effects and filters and all that stuff. And then it gets shipped out, and then if it's a bigger production, they'll put it on CD, and then if it's just going straight to digital, they'll just put it out there. So we're usually recording, I want to say about 2 months before it actually hits shelves, and that's like a really tight turnaround usually. Like it's like everybody, like Kevin will sometimes stay up till 1, 2 in the morning on those days to get the mix ready because it has to be sent out by a certain date because they usually want the audio to come out on the same day as the paper book comes out. So it's usually a mad dash to the finish line once the final edits have been approved. It's like go. So
well, it's such a big team effort all around. Like you say, it has to come out with the actual text itself there as well, and so. Yeah, the logistics behind it must be absolutely mind-boggling. But that's crazy. Crazy.
And I give the editors a lot of work because I mess up a lot. So no way. I always feel bad for them.
Do you have like the dog clicker? Do you do that method where if you mess up?
No, I'm lucky. Like they just
pause and then leave room for.
Yeah, I'll just pause and then they'll come back in and like what they're doing is they're the engineer and Kevin are making notes on a PDF. So like if it takes me like 6 times to get this line right, they'll kind of like notate next to the line and then they'll put like 6 hash marks. So then the editor knows, okay, there's like 6 takes of this and I need to pick the one that works and then, edit that in. And they have all kinds of like shorthand symbols they use that I don't understand or know what's going on.
Right.
But So I genuinely feel bad for the editors because I really will mess up a lot or kind of try to get different characters, and sometimes I read character lines in the wrong character voice, and I'm sure they would love it if we used the clicker, but from a performance standpoint, it's a lot harder in my opinion to do it that way. Like I had to punch record a few times, and it's you end up worrying so much about jumping back in at the right point instead of the performance that for me personally, I don't like recording that way.
It's hard. I've tried it a few times, the punch and roll, where you have to read. Basically, a punch and roll is when you like say mess up at a spot or you mess up a line, you hit stop, and then with punch and roll, it starts playing in your headphones like 5 to 10 seconds before where the mess up is, so that you in your head can hear or read along in the page with it, and then you can then keep recording in that same flow. But it's a trick for sure to be able to capture.
It makes it a lot easier for the editors, but for the actor, I feel like it's like you get out of your head and you're like,
you have so many voices in your head. Literally, the last thing you want to do is have to worry about some logistics things as well. So cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So when you are recording, like how long do they break up the scenes? Is it all done chronologically, or do you go for as long as you can?
Yeah, I mean, you're just trying to get as far as we can. I mean, we'll try to take breaks at the chapters or whatever. So, but yeah, we read it straight through and then just they record it as far as we can.
Nice.
So you're obviously a huge fan yourself. If you didn't have a chance last year, listeners as well, Marc read an excerpt from the upcoming upcoming Thrawn novelization on May the 4th, I think it was absolutely amazing. Now, being as big of a fan as you are, do you sometimes feel spoiled? And I mean like spoilers coming, like you don't get to see it on film first before you get to see.
Right.
Like how do you handle that? Are you very excited to like get that? Like, would you open the present before Christmas kind of thing and be okay with that? Or
yeah, I mean, I fortunately only really had to deal with that once, and it was with Force Awakens, and they asked me to do the novelization, and Kevin knew that I might have opinions about being spoiled. And so he asked me ahead of time, he's like, hey, look, if they ask you to do this, are you going to be okay knowing, months ahead of time? And he texted that to me or something. And I looked at my wife and I was like, I don't know. Cause I've been waiting years for this movie to come out, and I'm so excited to see it. And I want to have that opening night experience. And is it going to ruin the movie? And she was like, are you crazy? Of course you should do the book. If you got hired to be in the movie, wouldn't you say yes to being in the movie? We wouldn't care about spoilers. I was like,
I thought you were going to say, we have kids to feed.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, there's that too. Yeah.
I could just. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Oh no, it's just she was obviously right, and so
just picture you just like Luke standing on the mound, looking at twin sunsets, brooding as to whether or not you want to take on this mantra.
Make that ultimate decision.
Yeah. So I mean, it was so I do remember, and it was for that one it was crazy because I wasn't allowed to read it at my house. I had to go to Penguin Random House's offices. They locked me in a room.
Armed guards.
They disconnected the computer from the internet, so I couldn't do anything like that.
Oh wow!
And then anytime I had to go to the bathroom, they locked the door behind me to make sure no one was going in there. And I remember reading, and you get to the point where Kylo, spoiler, kills Han.
Wait, what?
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Oh no!
Why did you do this to me? But I got a little teary, so I'm sitting in this room all by myself. I was like, Han, no,
It's my boy.
Yeah. But then what it did for opening night for me was I still enjoyed opening night, but instead of enjoying the story for the first time, it was me looking to my right and left, okay, how are they gonna react now? Oh, here comes the lightsaber. It's gonna go past him and go to her. What are they gonna? So I'm like that made it its own special experience. Was kind of getting ready to see what the audience's reaction was gonna be. So it was still fun, and I still enjoyed it. But I think I prefer to not be spoiled. For Last Jedi, I had the option, and I chose. They said, we're going to record it. They for the other films, they decided to do the novelizations after.
Yeah, it was a
release,
couple of months later, wasn't it?
Yeah. So, but again, we recorded like the week of the movie coming out. So I said, look, I promise I'll read the whole thing, but like, let me just see the movie opening night and then I'll read it. And they're like, okay, it's fine. So,
oh man, that's great. Well, that's good as well, because with those novelizations, there's a lot of like the cut scenes.
Yes.
That weren't in the movies themselves. So that's another thing that I love about just listening to you narrate these stories again. There's like extra scenes that can add some context and make some other parts of the movies make more sense. They're just like, oh, that's why that happened. Oh, they had this interaction that I don't remember that being in the movie, but it just adds a lot of good depth to it for sure. So.
Yeah, I feel like I love the sequels more than a lot of people just because I got to read the novelizations and I feel like a lot of those cut scenes or extra scenes really helped understand some of the things that were going on in the sequels, and it made me appreciate them even more. So I really love them.
Definitely. Definitely. Cool. All right. Well, we're getting to be about that time. I'd imagine it's getting close to supper time for you there, Marc. So we would love if you joined us in a game, and we would be remiss if we didn't, get the stick and poke you a little bit and say, hey, do the voice, do the voice. So we're gonna give you a couple characters.
Okay.
I have a bag of characters.
Oh boy!
And a white Filoni hat full of scenes. Not full. We'll do a couple. We won't.
Okay.
We won't make you burn your voice out for the weekend or anything. Okay. So I'll give you. What would you like first? The scene or the character?
The character.
Okay. Okay. Character number 1 is. Oh, my favorite. Thrawn.
Okay.
Grand Admiral
that's
Thrawn.
just a hat full of Thrawn, isn't it?
Yeah.
No other names in it. I'm
Wait a
pretty
minute.
sure I thought we did that.
Oh, that was another point of contention. We don't have to go into it too much, but I liked the Marc Thompson version of Thrawn when you did the anniversary edition.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I that's what I envisioned as Thrawn. But
Yeah.
I love like this silent, maniacal kind of Thrawn that he
Yes,
became.
yeah.
However, I always envisioned him as this kind of like strong, brooding kind of character
Right.
that
Yeah.
you initially had for him as well before Mr. Skarsgård, I believe, came in and
Mickelson. Yeah.
Mickelson, sorry, Mickelson.
Yeah.
Does it now, but yes. So anyways, Grand Admiral Thrawn is asking for a quarter pounder, but no cheese, and will that affect the weight?
Okay.
So Grand Admiral Thrawn ordering a quarter pounder with no cheese.
Okay. Chimera. Full stop. Greetings, fast food window operator. I would like one of your quarter pounder sandwiches. But listen to me closely. It is very important that there be no dairy product upon my burger. No cheese shall touch the meat. Do you understand? Also, will this affect the time? Excellent. While I'm waiting, I'll look at the art in your bathroom.
Wow. Wow.
Take it to a whole other level.
I got goosebumps from that.
Can that be the next Star Wars movie?
Yeah, tell Tim. Let's see what he does.
Hey, for sure. Get it in there. Okay. Okay, next character. Oh. Han Solo.
Okay.
Han Solo is telling the kids you brought pizza home.
Okay. Okay.
Chewie, Leia, where's Ben? I got the pepperoni and the sausage. Hey, don't touch. I get the first slice. Laugh it up, fuzzball. It's my pizza.
That's so
Yes. I'm down for that. Okay. Last one. 3. Rule of comedy. Rule of 3, right? So
Yeah.
there we go. Okay, number 3. The third one. I have many more names in here, but we'll save that for the next interview there, Marc.
Okay.
Okay, last but not least, we have Princess Leia.
Oh boy.
And she She just got her credit card declined at the grocery store.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Do you know who you're talking to? I am the Princess of Alderaan. I'm on a diplomatic mission, and I need these Oreos. How can you say I'm declined?
You are on a counselor's mission, and don't try to tell me that your credit is not expired.
Wow, we even got some bonus characters there.
We got
Chewie.
2 for 1.
Oh, wow, we're spoiled. We're
I never
spoiled.
thought that's her father's declining her own car. It's like her dad taking away the car away.
Daddy.
Daddy.
Amazing. Mark, thank you so much for joining us, man.
Yes,
like
thank you.
I've been a huge fan of yours for almost a decade now. When I first discovered those Fate of the Jedi things, I was like, this is incredible. And like your own performance, I went back and listened to some of the Fate of the Jedi a couple of months back. And like even your own performance has just changed so much throughout the years. Like not saying you were, like bad at all back then, because you were absolutely incredible, but just like your own, the way you evoke the words off the page now, it's just absolutely incredible, man. So So I got to say it's a huge honor from me and the guys here. So thank you so much. Here, we'll be more than happy to have you on anytime you want to. Jeez, Friday night we'll be here just about every Friday. So.
I had a really great time, and thank you for all those kind words. It means a lot to me. So thank you guys for listening and for being fans.
Oh, absolutely. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. Well, take care. Say hi to the family, and we'll talk to you later.
All right. See you guys.
Thank you, Mark.
Bye.
Thanks again, Mark, for coming on. That was absolutely amazing. Man, I've been a huge fan of that guy forever. So he's who first got me into, I think, listening to audiobooks in general, never mind Star Wars ones. But hope to hear from him many more times in the future, as well as having him back on the show, hopefully at some point, again, in the somewhat nearish future. Yeah.
So yeah, I agree with Pat. I want to echo that. I really appreciate. I'm definitely going to check out some of Mark's work. He was great to talk to. His voices were spot on.
So
funny. Gave us way more than we asked for, so really appreciate it. And what we also appreciate is our loyal listeners, and to anyone new who might be joining us to listen to this interview. So if you are new, if you are old to our podcast, please punch that subscribe button and give us a rating. We always appreciate it.
And if you want to, stimulate your eye sockets a bit too, check out our YouTube channel that can be found in the show notes.
And you can find us on Instagram at Good Morning Alderaan, same with Facebook, and shoot us a DM if you have any funny memes or quotes or pictures or things you want us to talk about. We're always happy to chat with you. Thank you again, everyone, for listening. Really appreciate all the love and support we've been getting. Once again, my name's Pat, and on behalf of my co-hosts, Andy and Ryan, I just want to say thanks for listening, and hey!
Always be a Jedi in the streets.
And a Sith in the sheets. I feel like, given all of the Ryan Sith comments, it should be always Jedi in the streets and Sith in the sheets. Like, poop the sheets.
Yeah, we could switch those around. I like that.
We should put that in the podcast. We should put this whole conversation.
This will be in there for sure. Let's just drag out this goodbye a little bit longer.
Sorry, I ruined it.
He's just Sith again. All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.